You're welcome back. You're still watching a chat to the professional, and before we went on break, we tried to analyze what our guest here, Bayo Oyewole, who is an acting manager in charge of partnership and donor relations at the IFC, that's International Finance Corporation, a subsidiary of the World Bank Group. We tried to take a look at his sojourn to the United States and had an overview of what the organization he works in, what they do. But right now we are going to get into some specific issues, affecting Nigeria as a country. You had your basic education there before leaving the country, and you've been here since 1982. My question is, you said you were privileged to have the quality of education you had before leaving Nigeria. Today, I don't think we have that same quality of education in Nigeria. What do you think is responsible? And do you think Nigerians in diaspora, they are contributing their quota, as it were, to ensure that we have what they had that eventually gave them the opportunity to be here?
Well, to answer your first question, what do I think is responsible? I think it's a variety of things. The population growth rate of Nigeria over the years has been quite significant. That's one reason. There's also, I think, I sense that there's been a reduction in the importance that has been ascribed to education over time. I think in my generation, or in fact, as far back as my father's generation, people felt privileged to get a good education. People would fight hard to get a good education. Yes. Now I don't get the sense that I don't think people take education as seriously as they used to in that time. And then, at the time that I was growing up, there were very many missionary schools. A lot of my contemporaries went to missionary schools. St. Gregory's College, my brother went there. Methodist Boys High School. These were very solid schools. Yeah. I recall that at one time, when Nigeria felt it was flush with oil money, it took on the responsibility of all these missionary schools. Okay. And I think that sort of started the process of decline. So I think it's there are many reasons, and governments are faced with a variety of development problems they have to deal with all at once, and they have to make choices. And for many governments, not just Nigeria, if it's a choice between, say, infrastructure, and education, then they tend to go for infrastructure. For a variety of reasons, and the other choices, even within education, you have to decide: are you going to focus on primary education, secondary education, tertiary education? Some of us, because we went to university in Nigeria, we have a bias towards tertiary education, but but most developing countries really need to focus on primary education, because that's really what's important for. So, while it's very easy to blame, leadership, blame governments, right? I think one also has to look at all the, it's really a variety of reasons.
Okay. Now, and then the other issue I talked about, Nigerians in diaspora, their contribution towards educational development. Do you think they are doing enough?
Well, I think that it's very difficult for Nigerians in diaspora to make a very material difference to the educational system in Nigeria because it's so government focused. Yeah. And I think that, for instance, King's College, the school I went to, it's a government institution, right? And the reason why it was so successful was because it picked the best students from around the world, irrespective of income or background or whatever, and they went to King's College. And of course, there are many other federal government colleges like that. Now, if I were to make a contribution to King's College, which I do every now and then, am I making a contribution to the government? It would be so much easier if it was a private institution. But that's not an excuse to not to give back. I mean, and I think everybody gives back in their own way. The only problem is that for it to have an effect, it has to be concerted, and that needs to be organized. And it's not so easy to organize a large-scale. But I know that many individuals who are affluent enough are trying to establish private schools in Nigeria.
Okay.
And somehow the government needs to try and encourage this. My father has been in the business of education all his life. Okay. And at one point I remember he set up a very successful continuing education center in Abeokuta, which was very popular. And he was harassed by the government all the time. Wow. They complained about him, about his school fees being too high. Yeah. And then they created many other, government continuing education centers which were provided free of charge. Okay. So somehow the government needs to work with the private sector to make sure that the two of them work together to ensure that the quality of education is enhanced.
Okay. Thank you very much. Right now, we'll be looking at you to how, if I ask you, how do you intend or how do you think you can motivate the youth towards positive and proper educational development? Because what we have right now is a shame to our society, having 98% failure in NECO, for instance. And then we have all the other social networks on the internet that rather than be a positive influence, they are becoming negative influence on our youth. So technology is now an issue because it's, instead of positive development, is now having a retrogressive effect on our people. So if I ask you, as a practicing Nigerian professional in the United States of America, what and how do you think you would want to impart on the youth positively?
Well, first of all, I think that you're more likely to motivate the youth to take education seriously if there are work opportunities for them. I think that if students go through 4 years of education and they come out and there are no jobs for them, then why would they even want to go to university in the first place? Mm-hmm. So I think at some point the government has to take that responsibility and ensure somehow, and it's not just the government responsibility, the private sector also has to play a role, ensure that there are work opportunities for them. Okay. And the thing is, I know you have a very pessimistic attitude to this, but when I see Nigerians in America, I really see them doing very well. I mean, yeah. I see them, I've been here for a long time, and when, all my contemporaries started, we all did menial jobs, and the good thing about this country is that it's full of opportunity. Within a few years, you come back and you see people they've done well in whatever field they are. Mm-hmm. Now, we still have some issues of, reputation concerning corruption and all that. Yeah. But I think ultimately, people recognize that Nigerians are very hardworking people. Mm-hmm. The education that they have, even when it hasn't been so good, right? There's a lot of street smarts that combines with it that allows them to cope with this environment. Mm-hmm. So if they can do well in this country, it means that they have the potential to do well in Nigeria as well. Mm-hmm. And we just really have to examine all the different factors that cause them to fail when they do. Yeah. I'm pretty optimistic that with strong leadership we can change the picture.
Positive change.
Yes.
Now, you said strong leadership, and that leads me to the next question. Very soon we'll be talking about general elections again in Nigeria. What are your views on that? What are your expectations?
Well, I think we really need to. There are two aspects of this. We have to make sure that there's a free and fair election. Yeah. Not only because it's right, but I think it gives us some kind of credibility with the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. I think that if we are seen to go from one successful election to the other and then to the other, what it does for foreign investment is phenomenal. Yeah. I think that foreign investors like to see political stability. Yes. Economic stability, I think we've shown that we have it. And if we can just combine political and economic stability for a long enough period so we can establish a track record, then I think really it will pay dividends for Nigeria as a whole, both locally and internationally.
Thank you very much, Bayo. It's now the time we have the opportunity of coming across professionals like you who have seen it all the way from Nigeria, and you're here in Washington, D.C. doing us proud. I would like to ask you, when last did you go to Nigeria?
Well, fortunately, my job takes me to Nigeria quite often.
Quite often.
So I guess I'm lucky in that respect because I was at home not too long ago.
Too long ago.
Yes, and I go home pretty often.
Well, since we are all proud Nigerians and we keep carrying our flags wherever we go, I'd like to, on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Information and Communications, decorate you with the Nigerian emblem, which is the map of Nigeria in a flag form. I am doing this on behalf of the ministry so that wherever you go in the United States, you carry it along with you. To show you are a proud Nigerian.
It only has 3 zones.
Well, we talk about that. I did not design the Nigerian flag, so but at least it captures the entire country. That's the map of Nigeria.
I'm very grateful, Martin.
Good. So this is a professional handshake, which is a tradition on the show. That's what we do to encourage the young ones, because they know they can't have it except they are practicing professionals. And so it's my pleasure once again having you.
Thanks very much, Martin.
Viewers, please, you do not touch that dial. We are going to get back after this break to wrap up this show. But for now, that's all for the interview segment. Alright viewers, I'm afraid that's the much we can take on the show today. A Chat to the Professional next week returns with another professional. But you will agree with me that in all our interactions with all these professionals, particularly Nigerian professionals who are based outside the shores of Nigeria, you could see that passion to be a part of what's going on at home. You will see the frustration coming from them, knowing that the country they left several years ago is totally different. Yes, there may have been some positive development, but why should our educational system be nosediving? Time was when if you had a certificate from any Nigerian university, you are highly revered across the globe. Today, situation is different. Like I keep saying, I've attended a convocation at the University of Nigeria at some point where some foreigners, some Europeans, graduated from that same institution. Could we say a similar thing happens today? Well, I leave you to answer that question. But the younger ones, please keep watching the program so you could draw inspiration from these practicing professionals, and you too could become a proud practitioner, and one day I'll have you by my side to take the professional handshake. So till next week when I come your way, I remember Martin Ogbu saying, stay hooked to your station, and I'll see you next week. Bye now.